4 possible spin-offs have become 5, and we thought he only killed things off. George R.R. Martin sure does love to keep his fans on their toes. I'm Sasha Perl-Raver, and this is Screen Junkies News. Earlier in May, the old gods of Westeros gave us the news that 4 new Game of Thrones spin-offs were in development. However, author George R.R. Martin wrote on his LiveJournal saying that, quote, "We had 4 scripts in development when I arrived in LA last week, but by the time I left, we had 5. Martin then went on to clarify that 2 of the most popular story ideas, Dunk and Egg and Robert's Rebellion, are not being developed. In other news, George R.R. Martin is still writing on LiveJournal. That's right, we said LiveJournal. Here to talk with me about all this are Mary Risk and Jay Washington. We can glaze over the LiveJournal part. Let's get right into the shows.
Absolutely.
So let's start with what we're not getting, which is Dunk and Egg. Mary, tell the people what this storyline is.
So Dunk and Egg is definitely, it's the spin-off that already exists for Game of Thrones, and it was one of the most popular fan options to be the new series from HBO. Basically, it's the adventures of Sir Duncan the Tall and Aegon the Unlikely, and supposedly all of their adventures sort of like impact the future of Game of Thrones and indirectly connect to things. Anyway, so George R.R. Martin is planning to write, as he says, 7 or 8 or 10 books in this series, and he's only written 3. So right now, he feels like he would just sort of be getting into a trap with that. And it's not that we'll never get Dunk and the Egg in the future. We might. Right. It's definitely not going to happen right now, though.
Okay, and then Robert's Rebellion.
The continuous civil war.
Yes.
That brought down the 7 kingdoms of Westeros, and it's the downfall of House Targaryen and led to the slaughter of the Mad King. Now,
that was a beautiful delivery.
This is what George R.R. Martin says why they're unadapting that. He says, quote, "By the time I finish writing A Song of Fire and Ice, you will know every important thing that happened in Robert's Rebellion. There will be no surprises or revelations left in such a show, and just the acting out of conflicts whose resolutions you already know." So it makes sense. We're already given everything. So
sure.
We don't need to see Robert's rise to power and everything.
So we already have the one that we already know a bunch about. We have the one that we will get books about, and as you said, is already the sequel that exists.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what are we left with? What do we think we're going to get instead? What are the stories that you would like to see?
Well, he said it's all going to be prequels and that we're not going to see a lot of the characters from the current shows.
Why do you huff?
Well, it's some things you want to, like, the greatest city that ever was and ever will be.
Yes.
I would like to see how that came to be.
Well, and I think that there is some chance that we are going to get some history stories, some backstory of how things came to be in Game of Thrones. But he's also said that some of the prequels might not even be set in Westeros. That it's just sort of in that world that he's created.
I like that it's not going to be the same characters, because I feel like once you have really established characters, their story will be told. And we were talking about this before the show started. Chances that everybody doesn't end up dead?
Mostly dead.
Mostly dead.
I would say 98% dead.
I'm going 99.3.
Yeah. Ooh. It's like everyone's pretty much going to be dead. So how do you tell those stories when you either know how they ended or there is no way to tell them because they're 6 feet under?
Well, and that was one of George's big points, really. George, like he's a friend.
Me and George.
But that was one of his big points, is that he didn't want to tell a story that we knew the ending to.
Yeah.
He's really big into surprises, and he likes to shock his audience, and I think it makes sense that he would rather go to the unknown than to stick with characters we've already seen.
I'm fine with that, definitely, but there are certain, we don't have to see characters. Right. There are certain things that have to tie into tidbits a little bit, not a lot. I don't think we need everything that goes, oh, here's what happens in Marine. Here's what happens in different places there. Here's what happens with Joran and all them, the Andal. And
what Gendry's been doing for 3 seasons.
We don't need to know all those different things, but you have to have those tiny little tidbits.
Sure.
Yeah, it all has to
connect. I think there will be. There will be tidbits. Yeah. There will be connective tissue, I'm sure. But in terms of spinoffs, number one, why do you think he went from 4 to 5?
Well, they said specifically, it just, it sort of happened because he was working with the writers, and, as happens, someone's like, oh, that's a really good idea. Let's do that as a show. I'm sure they called HBO, and they were like, it's going to be 5, not 4.
And HBO was like, we love this money.
Yeah, that's great.
We will take it.
We'll
sell more advertising.
We're whatever you want, for sure. So whatever George wants, George gets.
Whatever Georgie wants,
Georgie gets. That's almost as good as the Game of Thrones. That's actually going to be the new theme song.
Yep,
Absolutely.
100%.
We're going to be that.
Yeah,
I'm into it. I'm into it.
It's going to be great.
So he expands this thing. We get more characters. But there is one more storyline that we have not talked about.
He did go ahead and break all of our comedic little hearts. We won't be getting any more hot pie. He very specifically said that if you wanted hot pie, you're going to be disappointed.
Everyone go as hot pie for Halloween.
Okay. Yes.
And force him to
do some hot pie.
Well, so Mary had a great idea, which was what kind of spinoff?
We were talking about this last time that we talked about these prequels, that it would be really fun to see sort of like a hot pie cooking show.
I would watch that hard.
Today we're going to make kidney pies.
Yes.
What kidneys are we using? Won't tell you. Stay tuned.
They're right here, my lord. Oh, come on, that'd be so good.
It would. I mean, I think it would, from a novelty standpoint, be a lot of fun.
That could be an interstitial.
Would I watch it for 8 seasons?
Well, does it have to be 8 seasons though?
I'd watch a season on Netflix if I could binge it.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. If you could binge it on the HBO Go.
Yes. It needs to be HBO Go digital content.
I would
digital
totally watch
content.
that 1,000%.
Like tasty videos but hot pie?
Yes.
Come on, guys.
Yes.
Make this
happen.
Today we're taking you to cuisine from beyond the wall.
It's cuisine from Marine.
Cuisine from Marine.
from Marine.
There's so many.
Yes.
Listen, HBO, just call us. We got this.
all down.
Do you think that they're going to go to specific areas and it's going to be,
Yes.
do we think that there's going to be more investigation into houses? Do you think we're going to get maybe like a White Walkers?
I'm really hoping, and this is something that he's been really quiet on, is Andals and the First Men. It's something that a lot of fans are talking about, and he hasn't responded to. Technically, that would include no known characters, really, unless the Children of the Forest. I don't know. Well, you've been alive for 1,000 years. That's a little iffy. But I think that could be a really interesting story, and that's one that doesn't start in Westeros, that ends in Westeros, which I think sort of fits in with him saying, it might not all be in Westeros.
And they always talk about the Andals and the First Men, Queen of the Andals, King of the Andals and the First Men.
But we don't know those histories.
We don't know that history.
Yeah.
So of course you could bring that out and then again cut it off right before you get into Westeros, because he said it won't go into Westeros possibly. Here's the story of how this came to be. Here's how civilization came to be in this land at this time.
Yeah.
Boom. That's a story. Now, does it have to be 7 seasons again? No.
But would I watch it for 7?
I mean, we all established people will watch it. Definitely,
we'll watch it.
Watch it. This is obvious.
But
you make it, we will come.
Because we predicate the seasons on what the current show has.
Right.
So it doesn't have to have those same amount of seasons.
Right.
Well, and funnily enough, I think HBO is being a little more stingy about it than we are, because they've said it's really important to them to make a show that's as good as Game of Thrones. They just don't want to fill that Game of Thrones void with some kind of Game of Thrones. They want to make another show that is going to be as epic as that show. And if it's not going to be that good, they're not going to pick it up to season.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, we want to know, what storylines do you think they're going to turn into these spinoffs? And if there is a hot pie spinoff, would you watch it? Would you would. Oh, come on. Comment below. You can tweet us at SJ News. Make sure to like and subscribe. Of course, you can always click here for more Screen Junkies news, and we'll see you soon.